I never imagined that one day I'd be sitting here as a mindset and business coach, helping women around the world manifest their dream lives. Because not too long ago, I was scrubbing floors as a janitor. And I don't say that with shame, I say it with gratitude. Because that version of me, the single mom, just trying to survive, she's the reason I'm able to help other women today. This is the story of how I went from mopping floors at midnight, scrubbing toilets in nasty boys' gym locker rooms, to coaching women on how to clean up their mindset, money, and energy so they can finally live free. Hey, beautiful. If we haven't met yet, I'm Teresa Boyce, co founder of Becoming Her and Automate Your Hustle CEO. My mission is to help ambitious women get out of survival mode and start manifesting the life that they deserve, mentally, spiritually, and financially. But before all that success, before the freedom, before I was married to my best friend, I was a single mom. I was working 3 jobs, a janitor on third shift, bartender on the weekends, and call center during the day and in between there. And even with all of that, I was broke, exhausted, and running on fumes. The hardest part wasn't even the work. It was what the work cost. I was always driving my kids from one house to the other, dropping them off at their grandparents or their dad so I could run to another job. And I tell myself, I'm doing this for them. But deep down, I felt like I was missing their childhood. And on the days that I did get time with them, I was so exhausted and so tired, I could barely function. I didn't want to play. I didn't want to go to do the fun things. I just wanted to sleep. One day I remember sitting in the car after dropping them off at my mom's, and I just broke down. I cried the whole drive to work. And I remember sobbing, saying, crying out, is this really it? Is this what my life is going to be? Because I wanted more. I wanted to be the mom I had dreamed of. I wanted to be a wife. This wasn't the way my life was supposed to work out. I wanted to have peace, joy, and energy, not just bills and burnout. But in that moment, it didn't feel possible. That drive, that breakdown, that was my rock bottom. But what I didn't know then was that sometimes breakdowns are just disguised as breakthroughs waiting to happen. And I know, I don't want you to think, oh, yeah, that sounds good, Teresa. That sounds good for you. But for me, that's just a hope and a dream. So fast forward a few months later, it was Thanksgiving 2018. My now husband came over for dinner. He was on his trip back to Michigan from Atlanta. We were sitting there, hanging out, talking, and he looked at me and said, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? What do you want for your life? Is this it? And I froze because no one had ever asked me that before. And maybe no one has ever asked you that before. But where do you see yourself in 5 years? No one had ever made me look at my life honestly before. And I remember just sitting there in silence because I didn't know how to answer. All I knew was I didn't want this. The question shook me, and it shook something loose in me. It was like a mirror, and it showed me the gap between the woman I was and the woman I wanted to become. That Thanksgiving conversation changed everything for me. It made me dream. It made me think about a life that I had never thought of before. It was the first time that I realized that if I didn't start creating my life intentionally, I was going to keep reliving the same year over and over again. After that, I started searching podcasts, YouTube videos, books, anything that could help me change my life. My husband and I actually decided to get back together and start dating. And he ended up leaving his corporate job and moving back to Michigan, which springboarded a whole journey the last 6, almost 7 years. And that's when I found network marketing. And I know people have mixed views about it because here's the thing. My cousin came to me and was like, hey, Teresa, I really want to lose weight. I told her I do too. We're busy. We just need extra pushes. We're going to the gym. We're eating right. But at that stage of life, we just couldn't focus on health, or the focus that we were doing wasn't getting us to where we wanted to be. So she brought me this supplement that she found and was talking to what I now know as an upline. And she's like, let's just go in halves on this supplement and let's go and have on the supplement and see what it does. We both lost 10 pounds in the first 30 days. It was wild. And I did not want to sell the supplement. And I told them for years, I refused because I started taking the supplement in 2017. And I told them I don't want to sell. I took it for my health. I lost 60 pounds. And that's when my husband was like, I can show you a different way of selling. And he's like, I can show you a way of making extra money with the supplements that you've been taking for the last 2 years. You had incredible results. And that was my first introduction to possibility. It taught me about mindset, personal development, and believing in myself again. It put me in rooms with people who dream bigger, who talked about freedom, legacy, and vision instead of just survival and complaining. But even then, I was still scared. I'd show up inconsistently, I'd self sabotage until one day that same man looked at me and said, babe, you're the testimony. You've lived what other women are trying to overcome. Why are you hiding? That hit me so hard because I realized my story was the message. I didn't have to wait to be perfect. I just had to start being real. And to be honest, to this day, 7 years later, I still struggle with this. Even making six figures. And so as I started sharing my story, women began reaching out saying, you're telling my story. And that's when things began to shift. I started doing 7-day boot camps and weight loss challenges. And I helped a lot of women lose a good amount of weight in inches off of their self. And eventually my husband and I launched Automate Your Hustle CRM 4 years later to help entrepreneurs like me simplify, automate, and scale their business. But as we grew, I noticed something. Even with the best tools, most people still struggle. Do you feel that? Do you feel that? Maybe you have ClickFunnels or Kajabi or high level and you're still struggling. And it's not because they don't have a system, but because they don't have self-belief. You can't build a 6-figure or 7-figure business with a scarcity mindset. And that's when Becoming Her was born. Becoming Her is about transformation from the inside out. It's about healing your relationship with money, shifting your energy, and aligning with your higher self before the evidence even shows up for you. It's where I teach women how to think differently, speak differently, and move differently. Because when you change your identity, you change your reality. I went from a janitor making just enough to survive, living below poverty, to running multiple businesses, coaching women worldwide, and living in overflow, even speaking international. And it all started with one question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? So I ask you, drop in the comments and let me know, where do you see yourself in 5 years? If you're watching this and you're in that place, driving from one job to another, feeling like you're missing life, scared of what this climate of the world looks like right now, please hear me. You can change it. You just have to decide. And if you want support, accountability, and guidance to help you do it, come join us inside Becoming Her. That's where we do this work: mindset, manifestation, money, and identity. You don't have to figure it out alone. Join us now. Link is in the description. See you on the inside. And remember, Becoming Her isn't a destination. It's a daily decision. If a janitor can become a mindset and business coach, helping hundreds of women step into their power, you can become her too. Let's do this together.